Breeders' Cup seminar. I'm Seth Merrow. He's Tom Amello. We will take you through all of the Breeders' Cup action Friday and Saturday, hopefully tossing out some good, informed, and cashable opinions. Tom, good evening.
Well, good evening, racing fans. Seth, good to be with you. Good to be back in the studio, and good to be talking horses again.
Yeah, it's been shaping up to be an interesting Breeders' Cup. I think the Classic all year long, people are kind of saying, I'm not sure about the handicap division. The 3-year-olds got a little bit interesting as we got later in the season. And I think the Classic became very interesting when Forever Young from Japan and City of Troy from Europe made their way over here. I think they had the intrigue to the Classic. The race that I think a lot of people 2 weeks ago were looking forward to fell apart a little bit. The Distaff, Idiomatic, unfortunately goes to the sidelines, but Torpedo Anna is in there. There have been a couple of scratches now. That Distaff has gone to a field of 8, but Torpedo Anna still intrigued with the season she's had, certainly. And as always, the Breeders' Cup has intrigue in various other races, but not just the Classic. I think the big Japanese contingent this year, and as always, the Europeans with the turf races. What are your overall thoughts this weekend?
Well, they had 80 internationals pre-entered and 19 from Japan. And I'll be candid here. I'm leaning Euro on the turf and Japanese on the dirt, and in a couple of the turf races. I think the American contingent, it's competitive. But in Europe and in Dubai and in Japan, they got 13, 14, 18 horse fields, of competitive fields all the time. And, here our trainers and owners are trying to avoid tough competition. So I think it's very interesting. As in any 14-race card, folks, some of the favorites are going to win. Several of the favorites will fold, and we'll get some prices. Let's hope we can put ourselves on a couple, and in doing so, help folks out.
Yeah, I think as we go through, we'll see. I took a couple of shots over the 2 days in that. Just what you said, I think some of the favorites would not be shocking to win, but I don't think they're inevitable. Right. And so I took a couple of pops during the 2 days, and as I say, we'll get into that and toss out our ideas. I do want to remind people there is a Capital OTB one sheet available with the selections, the Breeders' Cup selections from Tom and I. If you want to print that up as you watch tonight and go along, or print it up in the meantime, you go to capitalotb.com, top of the page, handicapping link, click on that, their drop-down menu, look for handicapper support. You get a nice printable one sheet with all of our selections for all of the Breeders' Cup races. I also wanted to, I pulled up the Breeders' Cup page here with the wagering menu and whatnot, all kinds of options. There's some special daily doubles, obviously rolling daily doubles and pick 3s and whatnot. A lot of pick 4s, plenty of pick 5s. There'll be 2-day wagers, but I did want to always alert people to the minimums. There's $3 all-turf pick 3, so that's a $3 play. Buck win, place, and show, $1 exacta, $1 daily doubles, $1 pick 6, $1 on the special daily doubles, 50-cent plays, trifectas, pick 3s, pick 4s, the all-turf pick 4, there's an all-dirt pick 4, that's a 50-cent increment, pick 5, 50 cents, super high 5, 50 cent, and dime superfectas. So there are plenty of opportunities.
There's plenty of pools for your money, that's for sure. And, one of the things, if you give them the menu, folks can figure in advance how they want to spread.
Yeah.
And that's the way you preserve your bankroll and have the money you want to bet your strongest opinions.
That is a great point. We were talking during summer when we had you on, we were talking betting strategies and whatnot, a lot of those Wednesday mornings. And I always, on a day like this or these days coming up, do want to remind people just of what you said. Make sure you're smart with your bankroll, particularly if you have something you really like later in one of the afternoons.
Absolutely.
Make sure you have something left to fire the bullets at your real opinion. So, play along, and if you can pad that bankroll early, that's great too. But just make sure as you're going along, you're reserving enough that if you have an opinion later on, you can take your shot.
I've been in enough of these over the years where I sat at the old teletheater and I got to the classic and, okay, let's try and get out.
Yeah.
But I don't have what I had when I started.
Yeah.
So, you gotta, I mean, if let's say you know how much you want to play in a race and you play less than that, well, you have more to play later on.
Yeah.
You don't have to play it all in the beginning. But that's a whole nother story and a different conversation. We're here to talk all the pools.
Toss out some ideas that we can make money on, and hopefully we'll all make some money on Friday. You ready to jump in?
Yes.
All right. The Friday Breeders' Cup action starts out with race number 6 at Del Mar on Friday afternoon. It'll be the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint Grade 1 event, $1 million up for grabs, and as the name suggests, 5 furlongs on the grass. Tom, how'd you see the Juvies on the turf?
Well, my top 3 are 8, 2, 7. I'm going Japanese here. The 8, Ikoro Sieg. This one impressed, breaking a record and beating 17 rivals on debut, and then followed it up with another win. We really don't know much about the horse beyond that, and these races were not available online. But what I do know, and what we do know, is the trainer of this horse was the first Japanese trainer to saddle a Group 1 winner on foreign soil and owns a Breeders' Cup win in 2000. Last year, he brought in Jasper Krohn, who was a pretty fast sprinter. Didn't get what they wanted, but did perform reasonably well. The pedigree is all turf here, and it's turf sprint. So I'm taking Ikoro Sieg on top. Second choice is the 2 Asterius. This one has been inching forward lately on speed figures, has been off the board but once in 6 career starts at today's 5 furlong distance, has been dead game battling rivals to the wire in 2 of its last 3 starts, fresh off 7 weeks rest, has handled ground that's less than firm, which we're going to get at Del Mar, and interestingly enough was pointed to a Group 1 Prix B on Arc Day but passed soft ground to come here. My third choice here is another Euro. This is 7 Whistle Jacket. This one is forward on figures as well. Has always been bet hard by European punters. He lost on debut to the very good Coward of the County, trained also by the O'Brien clan. This one by son Joseph, so a house horse beat a house horse. Broke its maiden second out and has been in group company since. 2 back, he led gate to wire on a straight. Last out, he was held to rate. He was outkicked by a horse named Shadow of Light, a Godolphin runner, who went on next out to win a Group 1 at 7 furlongs over soft ground in England. So 8, 2, 7 are going to start me off in the 6th race, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile.
I'm right in the same ballpark, except I have the 12 on top. 12, 7, 8, and 2. I thought the 5 might be a little bit interesting as well at a price, but I'm going to put Ides of March on top. And let me just say, this is a relatively new race, 5 runnings, first couple of runnings. The only 2 favorites to win, there were 2 Wesley Ward horses. And they were U.S.-based runners. Wesley Ward won another one with a U.S.-based runner, but came from a race in France. So the last 3 editions of this race, the Juvenile Turf Sprint, have been won by European runners or a horse who raced in the previous start in Europe. Now, I will also note, this is kind of interesting. So there have been 5 runnings of this. That means triple the trifecta place positions, 1, 2, and 3. There have been 15 trifecta place positions. Second and third in all 5 runnings so far have been double-digit priced horses. So, as I say, the first couple of runnings, favorites won, but prices have come in all 5 runnings in the second and third slot. So, maybe shop around for a little bit of value here. But I put Ides of March on top. It's Aidan O'Brien. It's Frankie Dettori. A couple of wins most recently. Now, the most recent one was the end of August at the Curragh. And I'm not a big weight guy. I think early on in my handicapping, that was more important. I think a lot of the handicap races now, you don't see the weight spread, so I think that's why it's disappeared a little bit from the handicapping perspective. But this is a horse that's getting 9 off the last race, getting 11 off a couple races back. That becomes notable. So a little bit of a weight break for Ides of March. I'll put that one on top. Second spot, Whistle Jacket, who is also Aidan O'Brien. Might be notable here. Ryan Moore was the regular rider of both of these. He's electing Whistle Jacket, so that may be worth noting. And Akuro Siege, the Japanese runner you talked about, interesting. Interesting that, it's a Japanese runner, but a Kentucky bred. By Twirling Candy, there's win early on top there. Horse lived up to it. The dam produced a sibling that was a United States runner and won multiple times turf sprinting, including at Del Mar. So has a sibling with a little experience over this track with a turf sprint victory. So that was notable to me as well. So for me, in the 6th at Del Mar on Friday, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint, 12, 7, 8, and 2.
Your comment on the triple prices indicates 5 furlongs, 5.5 furlongs, open the gate, run like hell, chaos. Okay, the 7th race, second on the Breeders' Cup card. We're going to go a mile and a 16th. This is the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly, sponsored by NetJets. The purse is $2 million. Take it away.
I will say, historical perspective is always worth checking out a little bit. And in the last 5 runnings, the winners of this race have come out of either the Alcibiades at Keeneland or the Frizette. 4 of those won one or the other of those races, and one of them had run second in the race. So it's a productive, those 2 are productive, and I put the winner of the Alcibiades on top. I thought immersive for Brad Cox in the first 3 starts of the career has just, how do you argue? 3 for 3. Maiden Breaker at Saratoga, wins the spin away, goes down and wins the Alcibiades, so comes in clearly raving good form, and I'll put that one on top. But American Bikini is certainly a player from that Japanese contingent. Comes in 2 for 3. The debut effort was a second-place finish. I think this horse could be live. Bred by American Pharaoh, so there is a little bit on the U.S. side as far as the bloodlines. The dam Paris Bikini produced a sibling called Paris Lights that won 4 of her first 5, including the 2020 Coaching Club American Oaks. So as I say, there's a little bit of American breeding here we can hang our hat on as well. I'll use American Bikini in the 2nd spot, and then Scottish Lassie, winner of the Frizette, George Abreu. And George Abreu had a horse last year at a price that came in second, a close-up, a near-miss second in this race. So Scottish Lassie is intriguing to me as well. 3, 9, and 10. And I will note non-compliant is a scratch, is from what I read earlier today.
Right. Yeah, non-compliant, the 7 non-compliant is out. But as you've said before, she'll return the race again. I, too, have the 3 Immersive. You said everything that could be said about Immersive. She's got tactical speed, which I think might give her the edge here, because I expect American Bikini to be in the front, and certainly Scottish Lassie is going to go. My second choice here is the 2 American Bikini for everything you said, and Seth, you did the work with all the pedigree and sibling information, so kudos for that. Yep, she did all that, and they've done all that. So this is a solid horse. And I took a shot underneath with the 1-horse Vodka with a Twist. It's something that's known to me. And, Irad's got the mount, Phil D'Amato, and I like the fact this one has races over the course. So it is 3, 9, and 1 for me.
They're in the same ballpark there as well. 8th race on Friday will be the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf. We're going a mile on the grass, Grade 1 event, and once again, they're vying for $1 million. Your thoughts on the Juvenile Fillies Turf?
Well, this is a race where I took a favorite, and I may regret it because he's short. I took the 1, Lake Victoria, the 8, Heaven's Gate, and the 12, May Day Ready. Lake Victoria has done nothing wrong and may be O'Brien's best horse. She's an impeccably bred daughter of Frankel. She's undefeated. Last out she was on, she was near the lead. She quickened to easily defeat 6 rivals. 2 back was a huge effort. She was pinned inside and in between rivals. She dropped back, angled out, and finished full of run. So this is a horse that has versatility and tactical speed. Going to be short, and probably shorter than the 8 to 5. The 2, Heaven's Gate, this one is steady. This is out of Econ, a daughter of Danzig. This one goes all the way back to Danzig. And is an unraced full sister to the Group 3 winner Mothweek, and a half sister multiple group winners from Europe. This is a pedigree that should relish the extra distance. Heaven's Gate, she's 12 to 1 on the line. I think that's fair. And the 12 horse is an improving horse, Mayday Ready. Horse broke its maiden up here at Saratoga, then went on to upset the Jessamine. As a matter of fact, Mayday Ready was pointed to I think the Philly race, the Philly 2-year-old race at Belmont at Aqueduct, and they made a tactical move to go to the Jessamine and got the win with a hard-fought trip. And so this is a horse who's steadily improving, 20 to 1 on the line. If I'm going to take a favorite on the front end, then I'm looking for someone at a price to either beat her or come second to her. So for me, it's 1, 8, and 12.
You can do worse than taking a 21 that's 20 to 1 shot that's 3 for 3. And that's what the Breeders' Cup is all about, and has been for years. You get a race like this, and a long shot can come in, and you look up at the board and see the price, and then you look down at the VPs and you say, how did that horse go off? But they all come in with nice records, and I'm going to take a shot in here on top. In fact, 2, 1, 7, and 8. Thought the 13 was a little bit playable. Vixen, but the 2 Nitrogen, I will readily admit, I'm just kind of tied onto this horse a little bit. We were up doing remote OTB on location at Woodbine that weekend. And this was one of the races that we handicapped in the Talma, and I picked Nitrogen on top. And within the final furlong, Nitrogen was ahead, and clearly at 41 to 1, I was very excited. Well, on with me that morning was our colleague Mike Callahan. He liked Vixen. And within that last eighth of a mile, Nitrogen continued to run very well, but Vixen went by at a nice 6 to 1, and Mike was feeling pretty good. And then subsequently, both of them were caught by And One More Time, who also went off at a little bit of a price. And we had Ron Deerking from the Daily Racing Form on with us, and he liked that one. So if people kind of went with all our top picks, they might have wound up very happy. But with the, less than a length defeat, running third, second career start, I'm going to tilt towards Nitrogen, and I would expect we'll get a price in here. I will note, this is kind of interesting as well. The last time this race, the last time the Breeders' Cup was run at Del Mar, the winner of this race had come out of a second-place finish in the Talma and won this race at 9 to 1. So this horse comes out of the third in the Talma, going to be a price. So I'll put Nitrogen on top. Lake Victoria goes out for Aidan O'Brien. Undefeated over in Europe for very potent connections, Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore, so looks kind of logical as a player there. Thought Process comes in 3 wins in 4 career starts, but notably the 3 wins were the 3 turf starts. The debut was the only non-winning effort. That was on the dirt. So I think Thought Process playable. Heaven's Gate, you mentioned. You can point to a couple others in here there. As I said, Vixen just missed my mix. Abiento I've liked throughout the career for Mark Cassie. But I'm going to take a little swing with Nitrogen in here. Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf Race 8, 2, 1, 7, and 8.
We're going to go to the 9th race on the card. This is the BC Juvenile. It's grade 1, as all of them are. And the boys are going to run for $2 million.
10, 5, 1, and 4. Chancellor McPatrick has just looked great throughout the career, and I had a chance to meet and talk to his owner, Sean Flanagan, closing night downtown. I've recounted this story a couple of times. Mike McAdam from the Gazette and I went out. We have the tradition of going downtown after closing day, and we were in 9 Maple Avenue, which surprisingly they roll up the sidewalks on closing day in Saratoga, so there wasn't much open. And so 9 Maple was one of the few establishments that were still cooking, going into the evening. So there was a pretty good crowd there. And somebody at the far end of the bar yelled, "Hey, everybody, this is my friend Sean Flanagan. He won the Hopeful today, so he's going to buy everybody a drink." And the place erupts, obviously. And about 5 minutes later, Sean Flanagan walked over to introduce himself, and he's a viewer. He spends the summer up in Lake George, and so he said, "Hey, I appreciate the show." And so we had a nice chance to kind of chat with him. And I said, "Well, we'll have to get you in next year, and hopefully Chancellor McPatrick will be still vying for some of the big grade ones by the time that part of the season rolls around." But you can't fault what he's done so far. And the last couple of efforts, in the Hopeful, Flavien Prat lost his iron, had to regather it, and Flavien Prat said in the winner's circle, he explained, I was just kind of thinking, once I got the iron back, I was way back. I'm just going to make my way around safely. And then he realized, wait a minute, I got a shot here. And he wins the Hopeful. And he had kind of broke nicely in the Champagne and then faded back and made a big run there as well. So I have to stick with Chancellor McPatrick. The outside post position is a knock, but with the way he, that late running style, I think Prat can maybe just go over to the rail and sit back and make a late run. I'll use him on top. Jonathan's Way for Phil Bauer has certainly looked very good in the first couple of starts of the career. Stretched out nicely last time to the 1-turn mile in the second start. He's a player. East Avenue might wind up being the one to beat. Again, undefeated in 2 starts, including the Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland. They were both very convincing. Ferocious has looked good as well. Second 2 back in the Hopeful to Chancellor McPatrick. Second last time in the Breeders' Futurity to East Avenue. I think he's got to be considered in the mix. I'm looking forward to this one because I think it will define some horses that we can watch going forward next year as 3-year-olds as well. I think it's a solid group. I have a 10, 5, 1, and 4.
Seth, I've got it 1, 10, 8. I took East Avenue from the rail. I honestly think this one can rate. He's shown speed in his 2 stars, but I think he can rate. From the rail, he's just going to have to break well and see what the horse to his inside does. He's inside Jonathan's Way, who also has speed. Obviously, there's ample speed here. And with the juveniles, the 2-year-olds, they know best. Open the gate, and they run. So I think that Tyler Gaffalione will get East Avenue to relax and be comfortable. And I think he's going to get a good trip. And he's got to figure out if he can hold off your top choice, my second choice, Chancellor McPatrick. I think you're right. The post doesn't really mean anything to him with his running style. And should get ample pace. The only question, and it's not really a question, he hadn't been 2 turns yet, and they've got to do that. And these are tight turns, so we'll see if that has anything to do with it. My third choice is the 8, the Japanese horse Shin Believe. This is a horse owned by Forever Young's owner, and they're not frivolous with where they place him. I watched them on the track, and I've seen what I've read about this horse says that he's all class, and we just don't know where he's going to be positioned. So my 3 are 1, 10, and 8, and we'll see what happens with the running of the race.
I looked at the 8, and just so lightly raced I couldn't pull the trigger, but interesting as well. By constitution, but he's a European-bred horse. He's
800,000.
Yeah, certainly interesting.
800,000. Yeah, it's a guess.
Yeah,
it's interesting. We look at what's on paper, and you and I are sitting here in a studio. Well, Shin Believe's connections were sitting someplace having a conversation going, well, what's next, and is he, and he's here.
Yeah.
So, intent, it's all hope. It's all hope. And so we'll see. They have to do it on the track.
Yeah, looking forward to, again, seeing what some of these Euros can do going forward. And the Japanese runners, actually, both. But the 10th and final Breeders' Cup race on Friday, Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. It's a Grade 1 event. $1 million again up for grabs. As the name suggests, they're on the grass at 1 mile. What did you see in the Juvie Turf?
Well, in the Juvie Turf, I took the one horse, Santo Carnaval, Japanese, 20-1. This one's a full brother to an elder Japanese stakes winner from a solid dam-side turf family of multiple great group stakes winners. The sire, Kitasan Black, you might have looked this up, but Kitasan Black, 11 wins, 19 starts, 11 wins, 2 seconds, 4 thirds for $16.5 million. Okay? This one last out, settled in 5th, angled out for clear running, had dead aim round in the turn, set down and ran away from the field. Now, we never really know the quality of these foreign fields. We don't have the ability to look at next out races, if you will, like we do at Formulator here. Another interesting thing, Santo Carnaval gets the top Australian female rider who has experience riding for Japanese connections in Japan, and she's taken the weekend off from lucrative mounts in Australia to come to run for us. So one, Santono Carnaval for me. The 4, Al-Qudra is my second pick. It's a solid turf pedigree. She ran last out in the summer stakes. And, I wanted to point out, you were talking about the Natalma. The 2 Woodbine juvenile turf stakes are really good preps into the Breeders' Cup. This one was set down at the top of the stretch, drifted early when a tiring leader bumped into her and moving him in tight quarters. He was unlucky, but I thought that was a winning effort. So my second choice is a 4, Al-Qudra. And third, I went outside to another Japanese horse. This is O'Brien. The 12 horse, 10-1, Aomori City. This one is out of an unraced dam and a half to a mile and a half turf stakes route winner. The dam was a Group 1 winner at 2 and 3. I think that this horse got the pedigree to stick here and have an impact in the juvenile at a mile.
I went 4, 11, 10, and 5. I thought the 2 was a little bit interesting as well for Marquesi, coming out of a 3rd in the summer, but I've used a couple of the others that were in front of that one a little further up. I will say your top pick, Santono Carnaval, you mentioned the jockey Rachel King. I was listening to Steve Bick this morning, his Sirius XM show. He's out at Del Mar, obviously. He had Rachel King on. And it's kind of interesting. They were talking about this, and Steve was speculating, gee, are you the only person that maybe has done this? And then subsequently got a text from Richard Migliori, who listed like 3 other incredibly famous jockeys. But she's going to be very unique because she rode earlier this year at Royal Ascot. She has a Breeders' Cup mount. She hops on the plane immediately and going to go in the Melbourne Cup.
There you go.
And so she's in crazy exclusive company. There were like 3 other jockeys.
And in demand.
She's very good. And as you say, she talked a little bit about her relationship with some of these Japanese connections that she rides for fairly regularly over there. It was an interesting conversation. I didn't use that one, but again, now with the story on the jock, interested to watch. But I went with Al-Qudra, Charlie Appleby runner, who ran 2nd in the summer. Behind New Century, who's also in here, and I have them flip-flopped, and I often say as handicappers, we try to get clever and flip-flop, and they'll wind up coming in the same. But I thought the trouble for Al-Qudra might be the excuse. So I tilted slightly there over New Century, again, coming out of 1-2 finish in the summer. Menti with the breeding, Rapoli-Pletcher breeding, the older sibling, and lived up to it in debut, and then they tried the hopeful, didn't fare that well behind Chancellor McPatrick, and then they said, let's go try the turf, and they ran okay there. I think Menti is going to be very, very intriguing. Zulu Kingdom, Chad Brown coming out of the win in the Pilgrim. I think just with those connections and that win, Flavian Prat on board, that one's also interesting. So in the 10th on Friday, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, I have it 4, 11, 10, and 5.
I want to just say one thing, and it's no surprise, but kudos to Steve for that interview.
Yeah.
No surprise with Steve.
Yeah, no, it was, as they say, you can always catch the archives on his website, and it was an interesting conversation. All right, we will take a break, and when we come back, we'll shift our attention to the Saturday action for the Breeders' Cup. So stay tuned.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes. In front, but here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Bob. These two arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a 3-horse photo finish in the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
Annual Breeders' Cup seminar. Seth Merrow, Tom Amello. Tom, again, welcome.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Happy to have you here talking a little Saturday action. We covered the Friday action, and when this gets replayed on Saturday morning, we'll separate this out. So again, for folks who maybe didn't catch the Friday action, overall thoughts, I talked a little bit about the Classic, having kind of a suspect maybe this year handicap division. As the 3-year-olds have come along, they've become a little bit. I'm going to be really interested to see what Sierra Leone does and what the price is, because I think some people are still on board that one. But the interest got added into a City of Troy and Forever Young, Europe, and Japan. Japan brings in a big contingent, and Torpedo Anna, unfortunately idiomatic to the sidelines. But Torpedo Anna is going to be very intriguing, and a whole slew of other very nice Breeders' Cup action. Your thoughts on Saturday's action?
Well, the Classic is a fun race because of the unknown with respect to City of Light. I don't know. I saw this on horse race Twitter, if you will. I guess there's an outfit in Europe that measures stride length, and I don't know if you saw it, but his sire Justify. And what they do is they measure stride length in their cruising speed. So Justify 27.4 foot length stride. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And Justify is pretty good. City of Light stride length is 27.1. And if you watch replays of him, and I think if you're going to go to the TV, try and find the workout that O'Brien had him go for a mile over synthetics, and you can see when he comes around the turn, when he's on his correct lead, reaching with his right foreleg, it's like he lifts that thing up to his whiskers and reaches. He wants the bacon across the table. So it's a very interesting stride, and he covers ground. So
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see what he can do forever young, and as I say, they had the intrigue in there. Let me just hit once again, if you weren't tuned in yesterday, I want to hit on the bet minimums. You know, there's all kinds of wagers during the day, daily doubles, picks, pick threes, pick fours, pick fives, and the bet minimums, $3 on the all-turf pick three, dollar minimums, win, play, show, exacta, daily double, pick six, and special daily doubles. 50 cent is the trifecta, the pick three, the pick four, the all-turf pick four, the all-dirt pick four, pick five, super high five, and dime superfectas. So there are your bet increments. All right, you ready to jump in the Saturday action?
Ready.
Let's do it, because Breeders' Cup action will kick off race number 4 at Del Mar on Saturday afternoon. That is the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint Grade 1 event. The ladies will be vying for $1 million and traveling 7 furlongs.
7 furlongs, specialist distance. My numbers here are 10, 6, and 9. I'm taking Hall of Fame Bilmont Scylla here, who's had 10 weeks off, losing to today's rival Society up here in Saratoga. This one's been working in company near every time with Speedy Stakes winning mate, Ohio Derby winner Batten Down. You know, the Grade 1 ballerina was a smart cut to 7 furlongs. She had a perfect trip chasing fast fractions, but nobody was running down Society that day. But she kept on to chase Society, and she's been in sharp form. I think the price 10 to 1. I don't think we'll see that, but I think that's a good starting point. Second, I took Society 3 to 1. She too is off 10 weeks rest. The interesting switch or Society's had a lightly raced season, and Scylla's a little more heavily raced. That may be a factor. But I'm sure Society's going to run her race, going to be pressured by the 9, my third choice, at 5 to 2, the favorite, Ways and Means. Ways and Means got 5 weeks rest. I don't think she's been tested in her last few races. She's set a modest pace, cruising in the mud of Saratoga, more a public workout in an allowance in a race that was written for when she came back. So, you know, in a certain way, you could say she looms the horse to beat, but who's she been facing? And now she's going to meet a fresh Society and a fresh Scylla, and that doesn't even mention the nice horse Vava from Sherry DeVoe, who's a flat-out good trainer. But my numbers here are 10, 6, and 9.
I went with Vava, 4, 9, 6, and 10, going out for our friends at West Point and Company. I think we'll get some value here off the third behind Society and Scylla in the ballerina. But as you said, 7 furlongs is kind of a specialty. And Vava in the career has gone the 7 8 times, 5 wins in a couple seconds. So appreciates the 7 furlongs. Now, went off as the favorite last time and didn't get it done. But it's just one of those where I can see things switching up, because when she comes out and really runs at the 7 furlongs, she's very tough. And I think you can make the similar arguments for any of my top 4, really. But I'm going to tilt towards Vava to get back on a winning track here after the 3rd place finish last time, which, again, I think will give us a little bit of value. Second spot, I used Ways and Means. I will note the last couple of starts were on off tracks, muddy track, sloppy track. So you might look askance a little bit at the performances or the numbers, but 3 starts back on a dry track during the Belmont meetup here at Saratoga, lifetime best buyer number, going that 1.5 turn miles. So she just comes in very, very good form for Chad Brown-Klarovich and Flavian Prat on board. I'll use Society, speaking of good form, came back off a relatively long layoff. November in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint last year, where she ran 4th, until June, ran in the stake at Churchill, finishing behind Vava, and then comes back in the ballerina, 2nd start of the year, and just makes it look easy with a 102 buyer. So she's now 3rd start back of the season. She is going to be very tough, and Scylla again, with that breeding tap-it over closed hatches. She has certainly lived up to that, on the verge of $1 million, 8 exacta finishes and 9 starts. At the top end, this race is very, very intriguing. But for me, in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, 4, 9, 6, and 10.
Race 5 on the Del Mar card, the Breeders' Cup card. We're going to go 5 furlongs. This is the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, sponsored by Prevagen, so you'll remember. We're going 5 furlongs. It's for $1 million. Who you like?
I wonder if it will be memorable. That's a great question. 9, 6, 12, and 1. I really debated about Cogburn, and was it last time? It was last time. Down at Kentucky Downs, I took a little shot against, and it's just kind of, can he keep firing like that? Can he keep firing like that? And particularly in the quirky Kentucky Downs strip, I took a little bit of a pop against, and he kept firing. So I'm going to stick with him. That race up at Saratoga, the Jaipur on Belmont Stakes weekend, that was, you hate to make a statement like that, but I have a feeling we'll be watching races at Saratoga for a long time before we see a performance like that. 5.5 furlongs and 59 and 4. It was just incredible. So I'll go there and hope there's still another bullet in the holster. Star of Mystery was behind Cogburn in that Jaipur and then came back and validated and flattered Cogburn with a big win in the quick call subsequently. Both of those against the boys. Now, she went back in against the girls last time at Keeneland and faltered a little bit at a short price. But I'm not going to ignore those 2 races just prior. I'm going to put her right underneath. And then in the third spot, Bradsell, coming in from France most recently. But boy, the recent record has been very good. The 2024 record, 3 wins and a second-place finish. They've been in, high-level group company for the most part over in Europe. I think he could be very, very intriguing amongst the the European runners. Big Evs was the winner here last year, 12-1 on the morning line. Big Invasion was second last year in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. And Big Evs was in the Juvenile Turf Sprint. Big Invasion was in the Turf Sprint. Those 2 are intriguing to me. It's another race that just I'm looking forward to it. A nice big field, hopefully some nice value in here, but I'm 9, 6, 12, and 1.
Before I talk about my picks, when going through the field here, I was really hoping that the 7 and the 10 were real contenders, because I'd love to hear a stretch call of Howie Wallowitz and Nizzy Vunga Vunga. Anyhow, where's Tom Durkin when we need him? Okay, my numbers here are 9, 2, 4. I guess this turf sprint has pretty much been an American event, I think. And Cogburn's the best American turf sprinter, clearly the horse to beat. And so buying, any kind of trouble out of the gate, and I think he's clearly the horse to beat. I'm going to let him beat this field. I wanted to take Bradsell. I was very interested in Bradsell, but when Bradsell drew post 12, I can't take that. So my second choice in here is the 1 Believing. This is just a solid horse, keeping fast turf sprint company, and it gets reunited with the top rider, Ryan Moore. It seems to run to his best running under Ryan Moore. And the 12, Bradsell, I think we got nailed by the outside post. I don't think he's 7-2. I mean, he's fast. He's a proven Group 1 5 furlong sprinter. He beat Big Evs 3-back. And I think this race this year is tougher than the field Big Evs ran against last year. And Big Invasion, I waited a long time for Big Invasion to deliver a win. I think he's a little bit over his head here. So 9, 1, and 12 for me.
All right, race number 6 on Saturday afternoon out at Del Mar will be the Breeders' Cup Distaff, Grade 1 event, a mile and an eighth. And as I alluded to earlier, it lost some of its luster. I think a lot of people, again, going back 2 weeks ago, were thinking this may be the marquee event with Torpedo Anna and Idiomatic facing off. Idiomatic winds up a little ding, and she's gone to the sidelines. And we've also had a couple of scratches announced as well. Betucata, the 3, and Miss New York, the 8, are out. So scratches now down to a field of 8. But it's the Breeders' Cup Distaff, Grade 1 event, $2 million, a mile and an eighth.
Torpedo Anna is clearly the horse to beat. She's fresh. We up here have been fortunate. She's been at Saratoga's Oklahoma track. A lot of folks have been going over. And Kenny McPeak has been so gracious, making known when she was going to run so folks could watch her. But I didn't pick her. No. I took the 9 at 4-1, the Japanese horse, Awesome Result. She's undefeated. She's a sibling to 2 multiple stakes winners. The dam line traces from Deputy Minister to Vice Regent to Northern Dancer. That's some pedigree. And
yeah, she's a Kentucky bred.
And Justify on top.
Yeah.
So, and she put in an absolutely stellar work earlier this week. So, in a race that's going to be tactical, I'm taking the 9, 4-1, Awesome Result. Torpedo Anna is horse to beat off 6 weeks rest. She's working well. And you're right. It really would have been good to see Idiomatic in this race. And my third horse in here is an unknown. And this is Alice Verite or Virite. I don't know how they say it over there. But I took the 4. She's 30-1. The one thing we can see from her past performances, she's got speed. And now we've got a short field, or a shorter field, and Torpedo Anna is clearly the speed. I think Awesome Result is somewhat tactical, and at least Verite might give her all she wants. So, and at 30-1, I'll give her a fair shot.
I went 2, 6, 1, and 9. I had to land on Torpedo Anna. She's been fabulous this year. I had her in the Traverse, and I thought she was going to get there, and she just came up short in what was a phenomenal race for her, and then comes back and wins the cotillion. She had to work for it a little bit, but Gunsong for the connections there, I think it might turn out to be a good one. Mark Hennig and company. But how do you falter? And you know, the workouts up at Saratoga were all reported to be very good. She seems on her toes if you look at the videos since she's arrived in Del Mar. So I'll land there. I'll certainly be rooting for her. It's going to be a fun result. And if she wins that, depending on the results, would you agree, depending on the results the rest of the 2 days, she's got a Horse of the Year opportunity.
Idiomatic didn't make it.
Yeah, you would think. Raging Sea, though, you know, this is no gimme. Raging Sea, a couple of starts back, phenomenal running down Idiomatic in the Personal Ensign, then follows up with a win in the Beldame. So she's very tough. I used Candied in the 3rd spot, but as you were talking, and I'm looking at that undefeated record for Awesome Result, I probably should have flipped those. I probably should have used Awesome Result in the 3rd spot, but I used Candied. She has certainly, you know, she's in the hunt more often than not. I think she will be again for Pletcher and Irod on Saturday. But you're right, Awesome Result with the nice Kentucky breeding, the 7-for-7 record. She's facing fields at 12, 12, 12, 16, 16. She'll add to the intrigue on Saturday, and it would be no surprise to see her get it done. For Japanese connections, and again, for people who aren't following day to day, Japanese runners, what's it been like the last 2 years, they have really made noise on the international scene, including the Breeders' Cup. So you have to certainly pay attention. But for me, in the Breeders' Cup Distaff, 2, 6, 1, and 9.
Let me share a tale about Japanese approach. There was a gentleman named William Deming who was a quality control expert, and he worked for Detroit, American Auto. And then he either got fired or he got invited to Japan to consult with Japanese auto. And I'm listening to Deming's story from somebody else. And so do you remember when Japanese cars were rice burners?
Yeah.
Well, Deming went over there, and then the Japanese took over our market. Well, the presenter told a story about an American company that ordered ball bearings from a Japanese company, and they said they wanted them no more than plus or minus 10 to be wrong, or whatever it was. Anyhow, so he tells the story that when the shipment was delivered, the Americans opened up the box, and there was a box to the wrong. So in other words, here's all the wrong ball. Their attention to detail is such that, okay, last 5, 8, 10 years, they've been buying up all the good sires and breeding men, right? And, it's a generation. It takes a generation to turn your breeding program around. Well, they are emerging. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for giving me the freedom to tell a silly story.
No, it's worth it. Again, for folks who haven't been paying attention the last couple of years, they have. Absolutely. And you're right. Now you're looking, as we've noted a couple times already, it's American breeding, but these horses are running over there in Japan, right, and they're making the noise worth paying attention to on that kind of auction and breeding side as well.
All right, 7th race. We're going to go 1.5 miles. This is the Breeders' Cup Turf. 3-year-olds and up. It's grade 1. It's $5 million.
I'm taking a pop in here, but tepidly, I will say. I'm 10, 6, 11, and 5. The 10 is Wingspan, 15 to 1. And I'm tepid here because it's a 3-year-old filly, but it's Aidan O'Brien, but it's a horse coming out of a second-place finish in the Filly and Mayer Champion race a couple of weeks ago over in Great Britain, ran second there. Calpana, the winner, is a nice improving 3-year-old for Juddmonte, so I think the second there is a good effort. But I note the horse was in that because I think horses that run on that British Champions Day, I think they're aimed there, not here. So I think this is kind of, okay, that was what we were shooting for. Horse ran a good race. Yeah, let's take a shot at the Breeders'. I don't think you run, if you're thinking Breeders' Cup, I don't think you necessarily run a couple weeks before it. So, but it's Aidan O'Brien. He's coming out of the race. He's saying, let's take our shot. And I think this may be a nice little up-and-coming runner that will, because of the circumstances and being a 3-year-old filly, is going to offer up the value that we see there. I'm willing to take a pop. So I'll put Wingspan on top. Farbridge comes in for Christoph Klemanov, a couple of nice wins. Sword Dancer up at Saratoga, and then a triple-digit win in the Turf Classic down at Belmont at Aqueduct. I think this is a talented runner, again, coming in very good form. Rebels Romance, winner of this race 2 years ago at Keeneland, has been an international kind of sensation, kind of bouncing around, as I say, here in Dubai and whatnot. But this year, back in very good form, 4 wins in 5 starts this season, including a Group 1 over in Germany most recently. So I think Rebels Romance will be legit in here. And Jaya Rebbe, if I'm pronouncing that anywhere close to correctly, the number 5 horse, comes in off a win at Longchamp earlier this month that I think probably bodes well for a decent effort. I think it's a competitive field, fun competitive field, but I'm 10, 6, 11, and 5.
Before I go over my horses, in defense of your pick or in support of your pick for Wingspan, in an interview I saw with Aidan O'Brien, someone asked him about quick backs, and he says something to the effect that, well, our horses return from a race and it's as if they haven't had a race. They're so well schooled, they're so fit. He says that doesn't really take much out of them. On the plane, here we go. So maybe that'll help. Okay, my numbers here are 3, 11, 5. I'm going back to Japan with 10-1 Shariar. Now, Shariar had a rough trip last year at a big price behind Auguste Rodin. She wasn't going to beat Auguste, but she was a big number, and I was very disappointed. I managed to catch you exactly because you couldn't leave Auguste off your ticket. But I'm looking for her to make amends. 2 back, Shannon, the effort behind Rebels Romance was stellar, and Rebels Romance is here, will be my second pick. 3 back at near 2 miles was really not as bad as it looks. And 3 back, she had the rough trip in this same race. So to me, if she's ready, she's a contender. And at 10-1, I'm going to give her another shot. The 11 Rebels Romance is clearly the horse to beat, 5-4-0-1 in 2024. Last out, she rated behind a soft pace, behind a hard-held runner on the lead. She angled out for room on the far turn, was set down and then hand-ridden in a very confident ride to go by, to hold a fast-clothing rival at bay to the wire. 2 back, she was up close behind an honest pace set by her mate, Auguste, and vied with Auguste late, but unfortunately was inhaled by a perfect trip and a good winner in Goliath. So Rebels Romance is clearly the horse to beat for me. And I took 5 Jayarev. We'll all take a shot at saying that. 4-1. You know, this one's been running grade 2, 3, grade 2 or group 2, group 3 in France. Might have a question of class, but the pedigree is there, and this one handled all kind of ground and handled firm ground 2 back to defeat a good horse in economics.
Yeah.
So 3-11-5 for me.
All right, we move on to number 8 today, and there is still more Breeders' Cup action after this race. Hard to believe because it's the Breeders' Cup Classic, but you and I were discussing before we went on the air, and there's been plenty of discussion on social media and whatnot. For me, it doesn't really bother me, but I mean, if folks are saying, why is the Breeders' Cup Classic kind of in the middle of the program?
Television.
Yeah, it's college football and other things, and so it's playing to kind of the TV. And as I say, it doesn't really bother me. I mean, I get it. I get it probably should be the exclamation point on the day, but I get it, and it is what it is. I'm not going to get too bent out of shape about it. So race number 8, Breeders' Cup Classic, grade 1 event. A boosted purse now, $7 million up for grabs at 1.25 miles.
Wish I had a good horse.
Okay.
Okay. There looks to be plenty of pace in this race. You know, Fierceness is going to the front. Arthur's Ride's going to the front. Derma has speed. Highland Falls has speed. You know, those are posts 9, 12, 6, and 2, those 4 horses. So there should be ample pace going from the get-go. My numbers here are 1, 2, 7 with a smile to the 4. I took number 1, Forever Young. I mean, I just think this horse has proven everything it has to prove. It's been unlucky. It was unlucky in the Derby when Sierra Leone leaned on into him, and he would give no quarter. It was a one. You know, you watch that head-on of this year's Derby, and Forever Young wasn't giving him an inch, and he was leaning all over him. This is a horse with chutzpah. He just had a ferociously good work over the track, and he's got tactical speed, and he's proven. He's here. I don't think we'll get to see 6-1. I think there's a chance that he'll take more money.
Chance he could be the favorite. I
didn't want to go there.
Well, I think chance is fair to say that.
Yeah. I took 3 City of Troy, primarily because Aidan O'Brien can't say enough that this has been their hope, their dream, their expectation for over a year now. And, you know, what he's trying to do, I think I saw an interview where they said he really doesn't have to win, he just has to run well for breeding purposes, because he's going to the breeding shed soon. And so they're trying to just increase his value with a good run or a win here. But as I said earlier, were we on air when we were talking about stride length? Yeah. Well, you know, he takes massive strides. He covers ground. He's game. He fights. So I'm not going to say it's his race to lose. I'm interested to see him run, and I think he's a real contender. My third horse is the 7 Uspa Tesoro, 7-year-old Japanese horse. Has been unlucky, dancing all the dances, Group 1, Grade 1s, but unable to get kissed outside of his home base in Japan. On a best effort and with a good trip, I think he's a contender, and 12-1 is a fair price. And last year in the Classic, Dermisotagaki was a horse I used in the Derby. He came off. The Derby was his last race into this race, right? He came off a Derby from May to November, and ran big at 12-13-1 behind White Barrio, and he put in a 59 work yesterday or the day before, so he's happy and in good form. So it's 1, 2, 7, 4 for me.
I'm 12, 3, 9, and 11. Again, I'm taking a little pop with Arthur's Ride, and I went back to the race 3 back up at Saratoga, where he just, you know, was devastating at 1.25 miles with a solid 2 minutes and 4/5 time. Subsequently goes on to look very good, winning the Whitney. And then as the chalky favorite, falters at 1.25 miles in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. That concerns me. Also, the 12 post position concerns me. Bill Mott has said, you know what, you get a long run in the stretch, it's like the Derby, really. We should be fine with the post position, so I'm going to put some trust into him, certainly. I'm going to hope we get back to that race 3 back. Now, you mentioned there is some speed. Will they go out? Will there be a challenge for Arthur's Ride? That is a big concern. If so, by the time they hit the final turn, I may have said that was the wrong choice to make there. But if he can get out and open up and maybe doesn't get challenged, we'll see. But Arthur's Ride, to me, again, on that race 3 back, is going to be an interesting potential run in here. I was willing to take a shot against City of Troy. I put him underneath, but I was looking for some alternatives. And I will say I went back and forth, so I could make similar cases with maybe similar confidence for other horses. But I'll put Arthur's Ride on top, and then City of Troy. Now, Justify is on top, but the Dam Together Forever, no siblings have tried the dirt. So that was notable. And I do note that Mike Welch, who's been out there for a week or so from the Daily Racing Forum covering the workouts, he tweeted this morning that City of Troy, this is Wednesday morning we're talking about as we tape this, City of Troy was out on the track galloping, and I'm going to quote here, his action seems unmistakably that of a turf horse. And it wasn't a huge knock or anything, he was just kind of noting that. So it was enough for me, again, before even reading that, to kind of, they're experimenting. I'll put the horse under the old Harvey Peck. You don't want to use a horse trying something for the first time, but he may be the real deal. There's no question about it. Fierceness. Both the trainer and the jock have won this race in the last 5 years. Now, Fierceness is notable as well. Comes into this in good form. The win in the Jim Dandy, the ding-dong battle in the Travers with Torpedo Anna, a 111 buyer in that race. Do note that the Torpedo Anna buyer went notably the other way when she won the Cotillion, so I'm not sure exactly what to make of that number, but he comes in very good form, and when he's right, he's very good. But this will be the first time against older horses. So I was willing to move him down a little bit. Sierra Leone, I laughed and said earlier, I'm going to be interested to see the odds Sierra Leone goes off at, what he winds up doing, because people have been tied to him. And I can't argue. He's a talented horse, but he just He's a little shy, a little camera shy. He hasn't been in the winner's circle as often as people may have expected with his talent, but he would be no surprise. So I have it 12, 3, 9, and 11. But I really debated about Forever Young. I think he is live in here. Derma Sotogake, second last year in this race at a decent price. I could see him running very well again. Uspa Tesoro, you mentioned, and I'm not going to argue there. Newgate for Bob Baffert is very scary to me, being based out there in a Baffert horse. And I'm super intrigued to see what Next can do in here. I have no argument with what they did with Next all year long. The trainer came out the other day and said, you know, I really debated, what should I do, and then I decided we'll go to the Breeders' Cup. And then I kind of went back and really questioned, was I doing the right thing with this horse? I think he was doing fabulous with this horse. He's got a specialist on the marathons, and they just picked up all kinds of money. This horse has over $1 million in the bank as they just dominated marathon races. They're taking the shot here. I couldn't pull the trigger. I'm not sure how he's going to class up, but he adds some real intrigue to the race. But for me, in the Classic, 2, 3, 9, and 11.
The most interesting thing to me is Fierceness and Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is my father's favorite kind of horse. He's due. He's due. And I'm going to tell you right now that if he's due and his day is due tomorrow, I'm losing.
Yeah, no.
I'm a non-winner because I'm off. Okay? Now, there's a case to be made that he could be keyed in every spot underneath.
Yeah.
Right? And that would depend on, to me, that depends on what his odds are. If you're playing the verticals.
Yeah.
But Fierceness, I mean, what are you? You're an enigma wrapped in a puzzle in a magician's hat. I don't know. I don't know what the saying is, but so let's say the good Fierceness shows up. As you pointed out, he hadn't faced elders, and he's not going to make an easy lead with Arthur's Ride and Next, right? And the question is, well, how tactical could Arthur's Ride Next be? Can Fierceness actually be tactical in the clear? So those are the questions. If Fierceness wins, I lose as well. And I'm not sure that this group of 3-year-olds, having banged heads together all year long, are really all that good in the face of these elders.
As you hit early summer, it was definitely a suspect group. As we went through the summer, I think they defined themselves a little more, but they really define, as any 3-year-old crop does, they define themselves at the end of the year when they face the older. So the question has yet to be answered. You're right. Yeah.
Race 9. 7, 10, scratch 4. You ready?
Yep.
Okay. The 9th at Del Mar, mile 3/8. This is the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf, and they're going to run for $2 million. Take it away, sir.
2, 4, 10, and 3. I'm going to put Full Count Felicia on top. Goes out for Al Gold. And again, we were up at Woodbine on that weekend of the EP Taylor, and we actually interviewed Kevin Attard and talked to him a little bit. He has some horses in the barn now for Al Gold, and that's a bonus because Al certainly plays the game at the high end and also names his horses. I have no idea where this one came from, but he has some very interesting names for his horses. But Kevin is also training now some micropole horses. So, but we talked to him, and then subsequently, as we sat up in the press box that afternoon, watched Full Count Felicia just dominate. I mean, it was one of those races where the horse opens up, and the lead is so big, you just sit there saying, well, they'll hit the last turn, and this will evaporate. Well, she hit the last turn. It didn't evaporate. It was at the point where they're not going to catch. They're not going to catch. They're not going. So they closed the gap, but it was still a daylight victory. I'm going to, off of those last two, and particularly that last one, I'm going to use Full Count Felicia. Irad Ortiz jumps on board, getting 12-1 on the morning line. Warlike Goddess, I'm not sure she's the Warlike Goddess of the past. She's 7 years old now. But in the last couple of races, a couple of good second-place finishes, including a triple-digit second against the boys last time in the Turf Classic. So I'll put her in the mix, but again, I'm a little dicey on her. Moira is another one, a Woodbine base runner for Kevin Attard. Comes out of a second behind Full Count Felicia in that EP Taylor, and she was the one that was making up some ground. And it was a nice run. It was just Full Count Felicia wasn't coming back. On a best effort, Moira is absolutely intriguing. And again, if the name sounds familiar, you're not sure, a couple of years ago when it was still the Queen's Plate, before it became the King's Plate, Moira was the winner of the Queen's Plate up there at Woodbine. And she subsequently validated that with just a spectacular career and just under $2 million in earnings. I think she's very interesting as well. And then in the fourth spot, I have Cinderella's Dream, Charlie Appleby runner that came over to the United States in July, ran a couple of times, July down in New York, August up at Saratoga, and put in a couple of nice stakes wins. So I think she's playable as well. For me, Breeders' Cup, Filly and Mare Turf, 2, 4, 10, and 3.
Speed is always dangerous.
Yeah.
And, the longer you go. How often have we sat in the box up at Saratoga and looked at a race going a marathon distance and said, well, there's 2 or 3 speeds here, and one goes to the front, and the rest of them just kind of go for coffee, and this one gets away. It's for me, that's a frustrating handicap experience. Unless I doped out the main speed. Okay. So,
you're exactly right. That's the game in a nutshell.
Well,
if you have that, you're like, oh, wow, this is great. And if you don't, you're like, what are those shockies? I want
and like you pointed out, Felicia went out 14 lanes, right? And you're sitting going, oh boy, here comes the guy. So you figure you're ready to mush your tickets, and here they come. Interesting. Well, my numbers here are 7, 10, and 4. Okay? Oh no, 7, 10, 3. Excuse me. Because I had a scratch here.
I don't have any scratches.
No, I thought well, let me see. This is the 9th race, so let me go. My top pick in here is the 7-horse Content. Terrific pedigree, sired by Galileo, Dam and Dam's full sister, and multiple group winners. You can ignore the last over soft ground because it's not going to be soft. And he was behind a slow pace set by your horse, Wingman. So his mate set the pace in his last. It was a little too slow, and the ground was soft. They tried blinkers unsuccessfully, and that's over. He's keen to run, fighting the rider along the far side last out. He settled late, was set down, and made a determined close to reel in the battling leaders. He was third to ARC winner Blue Stocking, 4-back at 10 furlongs. So there's class to Content. What race is this? Okay. My second horse here is the 10 Moira. This is, of course, coming out of Canada and has been competitive up there. They prep them well for here. They're going to get a similar turf footing, and I think she'll be well placed. Cinderella's Dream, my third choice. Most interesting thing to me, and I think this horse is going to run better than some may think. If you look at the work tab, 6 4-furlong works in October, 24 furlongs in 26 days. You think Cinderella Dreams is fit? We talked about that over the summer. Trainer intent can be not only how swift the horse works, but how frequently in prep for the next race. So I think Cinderella's Dream's got a good shot here at 4-1, Mora at 8-1, and my top horse Content at 6-1. Did I get the numbers right?
I think you did.
Yeah, I did. Thank you.
And speaking of workouts, I will say Full Count Felicia. The latest workout maybe scares me a little bit. October 24th, so just a week or so ago, 57. But we'll
That's
see.
the pace she's going to set.
No, yeah.
He's practicing for her to go slow in the front.
10th race at Del Mar on Saturday. Breeders' Cup Sprint, Grade 1 event. A couple $1 million up for grabs, and they will travel 3/4 of a mile.
Yeah. This is, I over the years, I've adopted pretty much a James Quinn approach to the sprint. He's always looking, he recommended looking for power sprinters, and he defined the power sprinter as a horse who can be on the pace at 108, on the lead or on the pace at 108 and change, and win at 6.5, 7 or further, right? The power sprinter. Well, my top two horses here might not fit that because they're Japanese horses and we don't see the splits. But I think they're quality horses. My top horse is the 5, Don Frankie at 15-1. I sound like I'm anytime I say Don Frankie, that's right. I'm thinking of the boys sitting around the coffee table in Bronx Tip. Thinking Don Frankie, and he dusted 12 rivals last out, okay, but he had no resistance for the very good Tuz in the Group 1 Golden Shaheen, besting 10 other horses. And I think that this is a good, fast sprinter. And, with Skelly, the 13, with 8 straight no chaser, with 3 federal judge, and 1 raging torrent, they got to go 21 and change 22, 43 maybe, 43 and change 44, and maybe 55, 56. They're not going 22, 44, 22, 46, 110. And so I think it sets up for an off-the-pace horse. So my top pick is Don Frankie. My second horse is the 9 Remake. And that Remake, he beat Anarchist and he beat Skelly. 2 good sprinters. Last out he had a perfect trip behind dueling leaders, cut the corner, angled out, and ran them off their feet, including that good Japanese sprinter, Jasper Crone. Okay? In the Golden Shaheen, he was placed in the rear, had a rail trip, then angled out down the stretch, and was in full run before getting slammed by a drifting horse. And he gets slammed, losing a little momentum, while Nakatomi had clear running style right outside him. So I take Remake over Nakatomi. And those are the 2 off-the-pace horses I'm interested in. And my third horse is the 10 Mulligan at 7-2. Now, it's interesting, I say this. Mulligan is named after a guy named Rich Mulligan, who was a principal in the Handicappers Data Warehouse. What's his name? Jim Kramer makes speed numbers. And Rich was just a great guy and a wonderful handicapper. And they don't, hopefully they don't name horses after you who can't run. And this horse can run. And he's the power sprinter in the bunch. He went 108-1, winning the Nehrud at 7 furlongs. And he was 109 flat at 6 furlongs, winning the Forgo. So I think he's a horse who can sit with the pace, just off the pace, and keep on running. So my top 3 in there are 5, 9, and 10.
Yeah, when you first mentioned, power sprinter and defined it, I thought you were going to go right to Mulligan as your pick because he certainly fits that definition. But I'm right with you. Now, I will say, I'm right with you in that it seems like it's just loaded with speed that is destined to fall apart. But at 6 furlongs, you get a horse like Mulligan that just keeps going. And so that's my fear, that it'll be fast, but 1 or 2 of these at 6 can still keep rolling along. but I'm hoping things fall apart a little bit, and I went with Remake. You look at Remake and the style Remake has, the Japanese runner, it seems like this is a horse that can pick up the pieces, and there are a couple of races down the page where it seems like he did just that in relatively fast times at this kind of a trip. So I'm going to tilt towards Remake, but again, it's going to play out. We'll know we'll have a pretty good idea by the time they hit the turn if there is a real duel, and then by the time they hit the head of the stretch, you really get a feeling for did this set up enough to make some of the front runners come back. And by the time they hit the 8th pole, Mulligan's probably pulling away and making me look bad. But
the other concern is it's tight turns.
Yeah.
And it's a short stretch. It's only 913 feet. It's a short stretch.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I gave some thought to this. The stretch at Golden Shaheen is 1,100 feet. So that's a lot of running room.
Oh, yeah,
so we'll see how it plays out.
So, but I'm hoping it falls apart. Skelly is a horse that it took me a couple of races to jump off the bandwagon, but you can see the betting public hasn't quite caught on yet. Has been the beaten favorite in the last 4. You go 5 and 6 starts back down at Oaklawn. This horse had plenty of speed and did keep going, and in the last couple winds up getting caught. Last 3 winds up getting caught late. Runs second. You can't leave the horse out of the mix, but on the win end, just the last few races made me shy away just a little bit. Federal Judge certainly comes in good form, having won the Phoenix last time, but another one with a lot of early speed. We'll see how it plays out. And then Mulligan in the 4th spot. But this is one of those races that on the day just going to be fun to watch and see how it does play out. And as handicappers, you'll go on Twitter later and people have the winner like, of course it played out that way. And it's like, no, I don't know if we know how it played. If you suss it out correctly, congratulations. But I think the puzzle here is how will it play? And, we mentioned earlier, the jockeys look at these PPs too, and there's 4 or 5 horses with speed. And then the gates open, and 4 of the jockeys looked at the past performances and said, "After you." And so we'll see.
I don't know if that's going to happen in the spring. What's always interesting to me as well in these races, who's sitting next to who in the gate?
Yeah.
Who might veer in, veer out, and knock somebody slightly off stride, because that kills your speed horse,
But you're right, though. In the sprint, you have horses that they just need the lead. You can't. So 9, 11, 3, and 10 for me in the sprint.
Okay. My turn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The mile, the turf mile, great race. This is just a wonderful race. By the way, in the mile, they're going to go a mile, right?
How novel.
That's right. And they're running for $2 million, and there are some really fine horses in this race.
10, 9, 12, and 8, and I have to admit, at a mile on the turf, I'm not thrilled that I'm kind of outside. And I had Carl Spackler not been in 12, I probably would have used him, but I'm using the 10. But that said, I'm getting the price. We're looking at 30 to 1 on the morning line for the Mark Casse runner from Live Oak Plantation. Comes out of a win in the Woodbine Mile last time, and a pretty good looking win. So 30 to 1, will we get the 30 to 1? I don't know, but can sit, kind of back a little bit and make a run. So the post position may not be too bad if we can get some decent position going into the first turn. So I'll take a shot with Win for Money for Casse, again, off that latest win, which, they were running early 108. He comes home in 132. That was a nice race. I'm going to use Win for Money on top. Second spot, Johans comes in very good form. A 4-race win streak, including a couple of stakes, most recently out in Southern California, including one of them at Del Mar. So I think Johans is very, very dangerous in here. And then the aforementioned Carl Spackler. The 12 post position is just an obstacle this horse will have to overcome, but comes in good form, 4 good connections, so couldn't leave it out of the mix. Again, outside with all of mine, really, and I'm not thrilled about that, but 10, 9, 12, and 8.
You know, I think this is the first Breeders' Cup that John White has not done.
Oh, you think you're right?
Done the morning line,
I think-
and I think Jeff Siegel did it. Now, this is not a criticism. This is an observation. Yeah, the line was ready when they drew, and so the line does not reflect post position. It just reflects the line maker's opinion of how the public will see the horse regardless of post. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
My numbers here are 6, 7, 9. The 6, 7, and 2 is notable speech. He didn't handle soft ground when his mate Tribalist won gate to wire last out. I always love it when the stablemate wins and you had reason or excuse not to win. He didn't like the soft ground. He tried late, but he was tiring and no lead change. So 3 back, he beat City of Troy. 3 back, he beat City of Troy on the turf. Okay? And he sat behind, tucked in, and then he outkicked the field. In an interview I saw today, Appleby said, this is the best 3-year-old he's brought to the United States. Now, will he run to that quote? I hope so, but I like notable speech here. The 7 is 4-1 Porta Fortuna, another Italian horse. Okay, we got Don Franchi into Porta Fortuna. You know, this is just a sharp 3-0. She had a sharp 3-0 performance behind Opera Singer, who's pretty good. Battled gamely to the wire. The very good Content. At Newmarket, he pressed the pace, forged ahead, drifted a little bit, but still won. And at Leopardstown, he was up close 4th, and then the afterburners turned on, and he kicked off. This horse kicked off smartly. So Porta Fortuna is the second pick, and the 9 Johans, as you pointed out, 4 for 4 Cali Myler. You know, has to win over the course, and if some of the things go his way, he runs up close. He's got tactical speed, but he's going to have to hold off Euro kick.
Porta Fortuna is when I really looked at it, but as a 3-year-old filly, I just couldn't quite pull the trigger, but I will admit that one scares me in there. 12th race on Saturday wraps up the Breeders' Cup action at Del Mar. It's the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, Grade 1 event, $1 million up for grabs. And yes, as the name suggests, a mile, and you said it earlier, and I'll say it here as well. We note that because there have been years where it hasn't lived up to its name, but depending on the configuration of the course.
Right, that's right. It's the mile and the 16th mile. Right? Who knows? Maybe one day they'll run the 7 furlong mile. Who knows? My numbers here are 9, 8, and 12. And I would put the 12 on top, but post 12 I can't take here. You know, it's tight turns all the way around. I may get blasted out for this, but I thought Domestic Product is a miler, period. You know, Chad tried to keep him on the Triple Crown trail, and he just didn't deliver. You know, I'm not sure he's a 7 furlong horse either. I saw something where it said that maybe he's an in-betweener, and maybe even this isn't what he is. But he's not a 2-turn classic distance horse. But, you know, Chad doesn't have too many enters, so he had a chance to focus on these few that he has. And I'm going to give Domestic Product a chance to run his eyeballs out. He's going to be retired after the race. He's been sharp. I think this is his best distance, and I'm going to give him a chance to win. The 8 is my second choice, Post Time. Gosh, this is a horse who's sharp. And gosh, this is a horse who just likes to compete. He looks cheap. You know, Brittany Russell can sure train. Sometimes her husband rides. I don't know who's in the saddle tomorrow. Who's riding tomorrow?
Sheldon, husband.
Okay,
yep.
The husband's in the saddle. And so at 12 to 1, I'm going to give him a shot to get in this. And I really liked Mufasa's race in the Vosburg. I mean, he came off the far turn and kicked off like he hadn't taken a breath. This is his best distance. Of course, he's an unknown. But at 12-1, doing what he's done before, I'm going to give him a shot. So my numbers in this finale are 9, 8, and 12.
I have it 1, 9, 8, and 14. I'm going to put Saudi Crown on top. I just think he might class up nicely with this group. This is a horse that clearly had some class throughout the early portion of the career. Close-up second in the Jim Dandy. They won the Pennsylvania Derby last year. They tried the Breeders' Cup Classic, didn't fare well there. Then came back and won down in Louisiana. Third in the Saudi Cup, up the track over in Dubai. But then they came back, and I had Brad Cox on up in Saratoga, and we talked a little bit about the Cowboy Jones race at Ellis. And I said, maybe just after the race at in Dubai, maybe a little confidence builder. And he kind of agreed with that. I got horses down there. But clearly, a horse of this caliber, that race at Ellis, there were other options during the summer of a little higher caliber. But he got the win. And so I think he's going to class up nicely here and come off of that little confidence builder and be a player in here. Domestic product, I agree. Does try older for the first time, though, and that was notable to me. But I think he's very talented, certainly off the numbers fired recently. Post time, I also put in the mix. This be a good story. Brittany Russell and her husband Sheldon, coming in from Mid-Atlantic base and getting a Breeders' Cup victory. And I tossed in Skippy Longstocking. The outside post position is a huge obstacle to overcome, but this is clearly a very talented runner for Safi, and Irad is on board. So if you want somebody to negotiate a good trip from the outside, you got the guy in the saddle. So
he's not Irad's not afraid to go between.
Exactly. Yeah. So in the dirt mile, 1, 9, 8, and 14. All right, so there's your look. And once again, if you go to capitalotb.com, click on the handicapping link, and click on handicapper support. The one sheet has Breeders' Cup selections available, so you can check that out. Print it up and use it during the day, the 2 days. And before we go, Tom, I'll ask any kind of wagers you prefer. I think there is so much value, potentially, that it's worth reminding people, the old, your 2x4, I still use that. If your horse is going off at the, you set your own, but to me, if you get to 7 or 8 to 1, you don't want to let the win wager escape while you're chasing some other things. So if you see the right price, get a little win place action down, perhaps. And don't forget daily doubles. Don't get so caught up in pick fours and whatnot that if you have a couple of nice prices in adjoining races, a daily double can pay nice too. So, and as we said earlier, make sure you keep your powder dry if you have something late in the day that you still have something to use for it.
Yeah, I mean, my action tomorrow is more simple than complex. I'm looking for a horse who the public sort of is ignoring, okay, from horses that I'm interested in. So, if I have a 10 to 1 or 9 to 1 or 15 to 1 on top, I'm definitely making a win bet, okay, because that's enough. I don't need 30 to 1 or 40 to 1. But what I will do all day tomorrow is I will sit with a sheet like this, which has the odds, and I expand one. And I just track the odds of the horses that I'm interested in to see who at morning line or at opening odds might have been 11, 9 to 1, and now they're 20. And look for imbalances. And my major bet is win, and then small exactas over the horses I bet to win because they're generally prices. And if they're good enough to win at 10 to 1 or 15 to 1, they're certainly good enough to run second. And your exacta price could be $30, $40, $60, $200 if the horse is big enough. And the only other thing that I do, and we talked about this before, I will probably make small horizontal wagers that I know I have a little chance of winning because I'm not hitting all and I'm not spreading and so on and so forth. But if I have an opinion in each race, I can back that opinion and not spend more than $20 or $30. And then I'll still look at those races because that's where I really think I can get some money out of the races.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun couple of days, always is, and I think this is shaping up to be a lot of fun. And you're probably a lot like me as well. You handicap, you bet, you want to cash some tickets, but the storylines make it fun as well, and there's a whole weekend's worth of storylines also.
Jim Major used to say that. Sometimes he says, you look at a big race and say, so what are the headlines? What are the potential headlines, and which would be a headline that would mean you cashed a lot of money, cashed a ticket? So yeah, there's a lot. This is a great time, and I'll make my one critique, which we talked about earlier. Ladies and gentlemen, we're in World Series time, right? And if it's tonight, because we're taping on a Wednesday, and unfortunately the Yankees lose, baseball's over for months. If the Breeders' Cup is not racing's World Series or racing's Super Bowl or hockey's Stanley Cup, then which marks the end of a season and gives closure to everything everybody in that industry has done for close to a year. They take some time off. And I think it would be almost reverential, if you will, if the scions and leaders of this industry decided that when the last race on a Saturday Breeders' Cup is over, we're not racing anywhere. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we'll open up Wednesday. 5 days to flush or to process. Anyhow, and give some sense of closure and enjoyment to what people accomplished all year long and in the Breeders' Cup. That's my pitch.
Yeah, you see, we talked also before we went on the air, in the day, the early Breeders' Cup, like New York racing would have 4 early races, and then the rest of the day would be dedicated, whether it was run in New York or not.
That's right.
It'd be dedicated, and pretty much all the tracks did that, kind of left the Breeders' Cup hours to the breeders, so it's different, certainly. But still a lot of fun. Wish everybody a lot of good luck on the weekend. Have some fun and cash some tickets. Don't forget, pick up the one sheet if you'd like to at capitalotb.com with all the selections. Nice printable sheet. Tom, appreciate it. Fun having you in the studio.
Thank you for
good luck.
having me. Appreciate it. Good luck to you all.
And good luck. We'll see you. I was going to say next year for the Breeders' Cup, but you're right. I'll be back sooner rather than later.
Sunday.
But have a great Breeders' Cup weekend.
Watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.